Welcome, gamers, to another thrilling episode of Retro Python Gaming. Today, we're diving into the world of the iconic original Sony PlayStation, the console that revolutionized gaming forever. Join us as we explore the captivating history of this legendary gaming system. Released on December 3rd, 1994, the original PlayStation, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment, took the gaming world by storm. Powered by a 32-bit RISC CPU and boasting 2 megs of RAM, the PlayStation delivered impressive 3D graphics and audio capabilities that were way ahead of its time. With a library of over 1,000 games, the PlayStation offered a diverse range of experiences, from action-packed adventures to immersive RPGs. Iconic titles like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, and Gran Turismo helped solidify the PlayStation's place in gaming history. The original PlayStation quickly became a commercial success, capturing the hearts of gamers worldwide. Within just a few years of its release, it had surpassed the impressive milestone of 100 million units sold, cementing its position as one of the best-selling consoles of all time. But the journey to success was not without challenges. Originally conceived as a collaboration with Nintendo, the project fell apart, leading Sony to venture into the gaming history on its own. Despite initial skepticism, the PlayStation's cutting-edge technology, coupled with its expansive library, soon won the hearts of gamers and critics alike. Today, we're bringing this gaming legend back to life with the power of Launchbox. We'll show you how to set up and configure PlayStation emulation, allowing you to revisit those cherished memories and explore timeless classics. So buckle up, fellow gamers, and get ready for a nostalgic journey of a lifetime. Let's fire up Launchbox and dive headfirst into the extraordinary world of the original PlayStation. Let's go! Alright, so before we begin, you can see my Launchbox looks a little bit different. They just had a new release come out, and we are now at 13.6. So they have created a new theme. It's pretty cool. Very nice. Shows you your last played, most played, picks a random game. I played over 118 hours. I think I need to get a life. Also shows your consoles. Last played, I played a little NHL, 101 hours. So, again, I need to get a life. Anyway, this is the 10th video we've done together so far, or maybe you join later. No more hamburger, so we're going to go Tools, Import, ROM files. Next. Add folder. It's PC, my R drive. We're going to go to Sony PlayStation. Next. Sony PlayStation. Retro Arch. Okay. The CD-based game. You're going to need that BIOS file. Okay? In order to play Sony PlayStation games in Retro Arch, a BIOS file called scph5501bin is required. Please browse for and select your BIOS file below. If you do not provide a BIOS file, you may continue with an import process, but you will not be able to play the games until the BIOS file is placed in a Retro Arch system folder. I don't know what emulator I'm going to use yet, because my files are in a PBP format, which may limit my choices. So I'm going to skip this part for now, and we're going to go back to it when we select the emulator. Yes, I wish to skip it. Use them. Everything. Emo movies. Everything. Bezels. Everything. Everything. Scanning. This is a bunch of games. Over 1,000 probably, which is why I chose the PBP format, which is the PSP format. It's a lot smaller. 1,711 games I have. And this is new. That kind of reminds me of Kit from Knight Rider. It's almost putting me in a trance. Now, if you don't like this default theme that the guys have included with this new version of Launchbox, you could switch to the old theme if you'd like. I believe it's called Old Default. Very clever, guys. Okay, it's going to find all the art. Import is done. We should see it in our list. There it is. Okay, it's going to start importing all the artwork. And here's where we fast forward. Boy, that takes some time. That was over a couple hours. All right, so looking at libretto docs, I think I'm going to download the RetroArch Cores Beetle PSX, Beetle PSX hardware, and PCSX rearmed. All of these allow for PBP files. Let's go and download the BIOSes now and place them in the proper directories, all in the front end's system directory, which is launchbox/system. Okay. Left side is my BIOS directory. So I'm going to grab my Sony PlayStation BIOSes. And I'm going to move them over to my systems directory in Launchbox. Okay. Now let's check out the emulators. Let's set up the emulator, or in our case, emulators. Go to emulators, RetroArch, associated platforms. We'll scroll down until we find Sony PlayStation. There it is. Okay. Right now we have Swan Station. We're going to install Beetle hardware. So that is Mendafan PSX HW. There it is. Okay. We're going to use that as our default. We're also going to add the other emulators down below. We're going to add Sony PlayStation again. And we're going to add the regular Beetle core, which is Mendafan PSX. Chef. We'll add PCSX rearmed. We'll add PlayStation one more time. Since Launchbox added Swan Station as its default, let's use that one too. Swan Station works well. It just has issues with change disk functionality. But we could add it as well. Okay. Now we have our PlayStation set up. So first things first, if you're anything like me and you're a bit OCD, that box really stands out to me. So the PlayStation originally came in a long box format before the more universal jewel size case came out. So let's change this. So we're going to right click on it. We're going to go edit metadata. Now, if you look enough in your images, there should be one downloaded. So we're just going to scroll. That's one, but it has the spine. Not many of them have the spine like that. So let's keep looking. No, 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 no. There we go. That one matches the rest of them. So this is fan art box front. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to box front images, box front. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the original one. And we're going to change this to something because Launchbox picks the first box front it sees. So let's just change this to box art reconstructed. We're going to say okay. And we should see it switch before our eyes. And there it is. Scroll through your list if you want. There's a couple of games that probably have the long boxes. The original games, Air Combat, there's some of them. You also might want to change some images that don't fit your image scheme, whether it's a long box like that, or maybe the spine looks different. if you want to make it more of a universal kind of image. You can always add your own. So let's fix this one, 100% star. Just do a quick Google search, find it, grab the image you want. This image looks good. Let's grab it. It's off Games Database. Let's right click on it and save it. Now we're going to save it to our Launchbox directory, Images, Console, that's Sony PlayStation. What is it? It's a box front. This is a European game, so we'll put it in Europe. We're just going to name it after the game, 100% star. Okay, populates on the right. There's our folder. You can see it right there. Let's go back into Launchbox. We're going to right click on it, edit metadata. We're going to go to images. So since we named it after the game and we put it in a proper directory, it automatically grabbed it. All we have to do now is just pretty much hit OK. We probably could have just did a screen refresh since we named it right, but it's always good to check. And there we go. So do that whatever you want. If you want to change your image scheme, make it your own. That's the beauty of Launchbox. Now that we have those covers fixed, before we get started and play a game, let's make a quick change first, or just a check anyway. So I'm going to test with Crash. So before we go into Crash, we're going to open up RetroArch natively. We're going to load the core. Use your page down, mouse wheel, you choose. Let's go to Beetle, PSX hardware. Just going to go to settings, drivers, and I want to change the video driver to Vulkan. Okay. We want to do this outside of Launchbox. Let's quit. Now let's open with Launchbox. Okay, coming up to our title screen. Naughty Dog Software. Okay, while we have a Crash in our face, let's hit F1. See the pixeliness, if that's a word, the pixeliness of the image. While we're in the quick menu, we're going to go down to Core Options. We're going to go to Video. So here's your resolution. Right now we're at the 1x native resolution for the PSX, which I think is 2040p. So let's bump that up to 8x. Again, this depends on your hardware, on your video card, your computer. The dithering pattern we'll leave as 1. Texture filtering, I like to go to bilinear. Everything else, adaptive smoothing, could leave that on. Anti-aliasing, we'll leave that up to you. That's going to kind of blur it a little bit. I think everything else looks pretty good. We're going to go to PGXP, and I'm going to turn all this on. Let's see how Crash looks now. Looks a lot better, right? Let's jump into a game. Okay, so here's a message you may get sometimes. Slow CD image. So we could fix that. We're going to go to F1. We're going to go to Quick Menu. Core Options. And I believe this is right here. So now you could do a pre-cache, which is going to load it all ahead, or an asynchronous. I'm just going to do a pre-cache. Now when you change the video, sometimes your audio gets a little scratchy. So you could always go into settings, audio, output, and bump up your latency. Right now mine's at 100. So if you hear a little scratchiness and you're less than 100, bump it up to 100. I find that to be the sweet spot. You can see how clear this 3D rendering is. So let's jump into the game. Looks pretty good, right? So play around with those settings. Those are the settings I use. They seem to work. I mean, this looks heck of a lot better than what it did. There we go. Crash was known for his, do I dare say, classic PSX commercials. He is the Sonic Mario for the PlayStation. So that's Crash. All right, let's try another game. Let's try NHL, the EA Sports version. I'll show you how you can change your controller to a DualShock. There's also a way to turn this BIOS off if you want to turn it off. Go to F1, Core Options, Emulation Hacks, skip BIOS. You could enable this and it will skip the BIOS. You won't see that BIOS screen anymore. But just note that PAL games may have issues. So I leave it on. It's part of the nostalgia, right?
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Okay, full motion video, so it's going to look the way it looks. Basic settings. Let's go. My beloved New York Rangers. Actually, let's do Islanders against the Rangers. Rangers at home. This game was made in 2001, ironically. I always remembered talking during this loading screen. Maybe I misremembered. Or maybe it's a Mandela effect. I don't know. Polygons are nice and sharp, but you see the ice is a little funky. We're going to try to fix that.
Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to New York for this exhibition game between the New York Islanders and the Rangers. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Houston with Bill Clement.
And folks, the fun just never stops here.
First thing we'll do is we're going to hit F1. We're going to, while in the quick menu, we're going to go to Controls. We're going to go to Port 1. We're going to change this to DualShock. Make sure that works. There we go. We're using our DualShock.
Well, for rookies, this is a major league high. This is the NHL, and these kids are getting a chance to prove they belong. That is why exhibitions are always a big deal to the youngsters.
Now let's see if we can fix a dithering on the ice. F1, quick menu, core options, video, change the dithering pattern to internal resolution. Let's check out the ice now. Looks like it was just cleaned freshly by the Zamboni. So play around with your video settings. It may be different for each game, may be different for each system. Nice shot. What's the worst that can happen? If you break it, we can always go back and delete your configuration file. You don't know how to do that? Well, let me show you. So using File Explorer, if you go to Launchbox, Emulators, RetroArch, Config, you have a listing of all your cores that you're using. So in this case, we're using Beetle PSX hardware. Now, if you're using bezels, you have settings already configured, but you're looking at the main core configuration. It's an OPT file. This is the one you want to delete. Take a look at it. It's all the changes we made. If you want to delete it, you can delete it and it would start fresh, like a brand new installation of RetroArch, of Beetle. You can make your changes again, play around. If you break it, come back here, delete it again. So that pretty much sums up the PlayStation. Try the other cores if you want. It's fun. It's nostalgic. It's a great time. Let's take a look at some other games, and I'll come back with my final thoughts.
Fires downfield, up close and personal. Playing to fire. First down. First and 30.
And that's a wrap, gamers. You're now armed with the magic of Launchbox, reliving PlayStation classics like never before. Play around with your settings. Most of these games are great. Their gameplay is phenomenal. The graphics may be a little wonky for today's standards, so see if you can enhance them. As always, keep the nostalgia alive, keep gaming strong. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. It goes a long way. For more retro gaming, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, happy gaming.